and welcome to, what are we using tonight? We are using Crafting Forever. And this is probably one of the first stamp sets I bought, and I really haven't used it that much. So I'm excited that we're going to use it tonight. This one is, and this is the sketch that we're using, and this sketch will be, along with the recording, will be uploaded on my blog later tonight so that you can have this for yourself. So let's move that over. I've already pre-cut. So I did two because I don't know how many we'll get through. I'm using the Petal Garden Designer Series paper. And it is item number 144168. This is one of those that I didn't really think was my favorite, but when I use it, I actually do like the colors. And what's nice, they're double-sided, and so, you know, one side might be really bright, but the other side is just tone on tone. So they're really good to work together. Let's move back to the sketch for a sec. So this is a top fold. It starts with an A2 card base. So it's 5.5 by 4 1/4. And then you're going to do this solid is this hot pink, and it's 5 1/4 by 4. Then there's a 2.5 by 3 3/4 piece, and I don't know if you can see it, but I ran it through with an embossing folder, and I used the big dots. Love that one. I know they have a really good name, but I don't know what it is. I keep saying I'm going to label these because I never know what their names are. But anyway, it's the polka dots. And so you can kind of see that there. And then the next one is 3 1/4 by 3 1/4 square. Whoops, that's not it. It's this green one. That's going to go right here. And then I have where I'm actually going to stamp a 3 by 3 for the center. Okay. I want to show you a couple ideas for the 3 by 3. This is just done on regular cardstock, regular Whisper White. This is done using my watercolor paper. And I used this from the Layered Squares Thinlits to cut this look. So you can see you can have this, which is kind of cool. Or you can have this look, whichever you like. I'm probably going to do both because watercoloring on these two kinds give you a different look each time. No, I did not leave my husband. I don't have my ring on tonight because I got bit right there and it's swelling. And fortunately, I got my rings off before anything bad happened. I know, I just thought I was going to go with him, and now I don't have my ring on. This is the Crafting Forever. And this is a great stamp set if you are creating cards to sell at boutiques or as bundles or what have you, because part of the angel policy of Stampin' Up! Is that on the back of the card you need to have the Stampin' Up! Copyright, which we have an itty bitty little stamp. Come on, zoom in, you can do it. Come on, camera. Okay, you can't do it. It's this one. It says copyright Stampin' Up! So that can go in the back of any of the stamps that you make. So not only is this a cool stamp set, it's really useful to have that one. The Made with Love and then this work really well together. Crafting Forever, Housework Never, Do Something Creative Every Day. We Are Cut Out to Be Friends with the Scissors. I love the pens. I think they're really pretty. And of course the paintbrushes. So we're going to do a couple different ones. I am going to use, because I like it, the basic gray. The Memento ink works really well also. I'm going to do, are you guys too big for this one? Yeah, you are. This one is the, I don't know, I'm blind. I can't see. This is the E Black. And that fits really well on it. So one of the things I want to talk about before I actually stamp this is you might want to do some sort of a background. Now you could do the background first. You can do some background shading after. We're going to do both so you can save the two different kinds of ways of doing it. So I'm going to do my background and my watercolor one first. And a couple of things. We used the spritz in the, was this Simple Surprise in August? Was this in that? I forget where they were. The spritzer was there. And we did it where you add a couple of drops of your re-inker to it, and then you get this super cool look. So that's what I'm going to do on my background. Basically, you fill it with water. You can also use alcohol. And I'm going to just spritz a little bit. I'm going to practice over here. And I get this really cool look. That's on the regular Whisper White. It works fine. This is what the watercolor looks like. So you can decide which one you like better. Okay, we'll stop now. Now, we clearly have to let these really dry before we do anything to them. You can also use your heat gun and dry them out. And I'm just going to set these aside. So in the meantime, while I wait for this background to dry, I'm going to use these two, and I'm just going to stamp them, and then we'll do background after, a different way. How many of you are Copic marker colorers? Anybody still using Copics or wanting to use Copics? Okay. So a lot of the Copic techniques that you have are ones that are going to work really well with this. Whoops, sorry, just hit the camera. Don't mean to make you dizzy. I'm going to see if I can't get something else on here besides just this. So I'm going to put this off to one side. Notice how it stamps differently. It's a much crisper stamp on the Whisper White than it is on the watercolor. I'm coloring it in, so I'm okay with that. But the watercolor is a little trickier to stamp on. You need to really ink it up. And this, my ink pad's a little dry. So you want to make it extra wet if you're using the watercolor. So use your re-inker and add a little bit of ink if you're getting this kind of a look with it, if that bothers you. In this case, I'm okay with it because I'm going to make it sort of Monet-ish. Yeah, that's a little ballsy to say that. I'm not really Monet, but I'm going to try. I'm going to give it kind of that illusion of watercolor, and I'm okay with it not being super, super distinct. Okay. So time for, and I'm using watercolor pencils. You can get a totally different look by using markers. You'll get a much more bold, more Copic looking look. I like the watercolor look. Now, I said I was going to go away for a couple of days. I would probably, if I was not having a book that I want to read, I would do a bunch of these and just bring them with me. Remember, we've got that to-go kit where you take an empty stamp set. I put my my alphabet dies in here, but you take one of these. Your watercolors fit in here. You could stamp off a few, so you don't need to bring a bunch of stuff with you. You bring some watercolors and a blender pen, and you're good to go. And actually, I think that's what I'm going to do. As I say that out loud, I was thinking, oh no, I don't need to work. I might do this because I just enjoy it. Sitting by the pool, sitting at the beach, it would be really fun because I'm not really going to swim a lot in the beach in New England. And I'm just going to add some color here with my, remember when you are using watercolors, it doesn't look that great until you add the, until you bring in the blender pen. Now, if I were a good painter, my brushes would not have color in them, but I want these to have color. And I want my, so I'm going to put lots of color down on lots of different things. And then I'm going to take my blender pen and work my colors. Now, if you're worried that you have too much ink on your blender pen, you can wipe it off. You can also use your stamp and spray that you use for the scrub. That works well too. So if you're feeling like, boy, I might be time for a new blender pen, but I'm going to try and coax it along a little bit. If you bring this in, and on the wet side, whoops, I'm zoomed in, so I have to make sure that you can see it, and just spritz it a little. And then wipe this. And you'll see that your pen is it'll be a lot happier. You can see that my pen wasn't very clean before, so I just keep doing this till it is. That's why I was getting kind of a muddy look. I'm awful about doing this and then putting it away. Much better. So now when I do the pink, I'm just getting pink. I'm not getting mud. So this, I want to make this, I don't want it to look terracotta necessarily, but I want it to look kind of a little more natural than a bright color. So I'm going to use my Old Olive. And notice the stamp has some shading for me on this side, so I'm going to put my color much heavier. So this stamp set was designed assuming this is my light source over here. Light side is going to, you're going to assume the sun is shining or the light bulb is shining this way. So this side is going to be brighter. This side on the left is going to have your shadow. So your brushes are going to have a shadow on this side. It's going to be darker on the left, and it's also going to be darker under here. This stamp is great because it gives you all of that. This one was designed for you to color. You're thinking, oh, I don't know about all those lines that you have, Kara. I don't really like that. It looks like a 5-year-old colored it. It does, but wait a minute. We'll make it look better. We'll bring our blender in, and I'm going to start where the colors are, where I have more color, and start bringing it this way. See how much better it looks? The blender pen is magic. I love it. Now, if you decide you want a little bit more, you can always bring more in, let it dry. You can come back with another layer. But it just looks like you actually know what you're doing, right? Let's bring some more colors in up here. And then I'm going to grab my Wink of Stella and add that to the metal parts here. So I get, I actually put your cover back on? Huh. So I get a metallic look, you know, where the metal parts of the brush are. Okay. And what's cool about Wink and Stella is it sort of blends a little too. All right, so that would be just, I would probably play more, but let's assume we're good. This is one where I didn't do the background ahead of time, but now I can take that little spritzer we were talking about, and these were spritzed already. Now they're dry. We'll work with those in a minute. This one, I could do the little spritzer thing, right? And get my color in if I wanted. So I could get some of this. If I get far away, like my hand, sorry, my hand is above the camera. So my hand is about 2 feet above the thing. Now I think I got a little heavy-handed on the second spritz, but I could take my water pen, my aqua painter, and I could kind of blend that in. I think I would have stopped at 1, but I'm not hating it. It's yours. There's nothing wrong with it, right? So this is adding the pattern after you've already done it. This is going to go on here. And I'm going to use my dimensionals to put that down. Now I use the archival gray because the archival is less likely to smear. If you're concerned, oh, I'm not even on the camera, sorry. Yeah, that's better. Okay. Get up there. Put that on there. And then this goes on here with my snail. Cool, right? And it really wasn't that hard, but it looks like I spent a lot of time doing it. All right, so that's one way. Let's assume that I like the watercolor idea. This is the one that I did it first on. Now, part of the problem with this, if I just go ahead and stamp and then try and color, you're going to see the green through it. It's not really going to work as well that way. So let's use a different stamp that would work better on that one. And in that case, I'm going to use one of the sentiments, but I'm going to do it with the black on top of this so that I can actually see it. And I'm going to use my basic black. Now remember, I'm on watercolor paper, so I'm going to want to make sure that I've got a lot of ink on my stamp. I'm going to really get it stamped up. A couple of twists, a couple of taps. Make sure I got a lot of ink on it. And I'm going to go right down. I'm going to go over to one side. And then I'm going to take, if I can get my scissors on there, I can. So I'm going to put my scissors on too. Sorry. I love it. And then we'll put this on the other card. So we start with our base. Remember, we're using this sketch. We start with our base, then we put our background. This is from the Petal Garden. And then we bring in the 2.5 by 3 3/4. And again, I ran that through the dotted embossing folder. And that goes over here. And then we did the 3¼ by 3¼ That's the blue layer here. And I did the reverse of this. And pop that down. And then I'm going to put my watercolor one on top. Okay? All right, so we got two totally different cards using the same sketch. And let's try, now we've got some other coloring to work on. And a really big bug just flew in. Great. So we have this guy, and we have this one. Another way that you can do some of your background, if you don't like the spritzy idea, spritz is tough to control. It kind of takes over on you. So let's say that we have colored, let's color this. I'm not going to do the top, but I'll do the flower pot. So let's do the pot. And I'm on the watercolor paper this time. You can tell that it looks a little bit different. It definitely picks up the color better. And I use the Aqua Painter with this one. Remember, this is just water. And you squeeze it a little bit, and you'll see that you get the same look. But the watercolor paper is more quick. Whoops. Move in. To blend, right? But watch what else you can do with the watercolor, with the Aqua Painter. If you take your stamp pad of Calypso Coral, whoops, sorry, I just made a mess. That's all right, we'll use that as our shading on that side. Watercolor is so forgiving. What's cool about this is the watercolor pencil, Calypso Coral, matches and coordinates with the stamp pad. It will also coordinate with the paper. It will coordinate with the marker. All of Stampin' Up! Colors go together. So you don't have to worry that it doesn't match or it's not okay, or you are all set. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of color by just dabbing the pad. Now I could use a refill and create a palette, or I can just take a little bit of color off the pad. And when I put that down here, you can see that I get exactly the same color So I could, if I didn't want to use my pencils, I could get it by using my ink pad. Okay? I'm going to show you one more way to get your colors. But it gives you as much detail as you want, even though you're using, it's just water in here. But it lets you blend it in really nicely. This, Kathy, this is the Aqua Painter. This is the Blender pen. The Blender pen will work and do similar on your Whisper White. The difference between the Whisper White and the watercolor, if you get this really wet, it starts to ball up on the surface and the layers of paper start to come apart, whereas the watercolor paper is really forgiving and lets you use quite a bit of water before you have that trouble. I love the Blender pens. They come in a set of 3. And I have used, these are the ones I've had since I started in February. I haven't bought new ones. I just ordered some new ones because I feel the need. But only because I've used and used and used them. Yeah, they do last a really long time. And if you spritz them with your Stampin' Scrub spray, like I did earlier, Stampin' Mist, you can really clean them up. Okay. I started to do the shading and I didn't really mean to, but you can shade with a couple different things. You can shade with actual color. So if I wanted to do that, where's my Calypso Coral? Now, in this case, I really want shading in the sun. I wanted shading over here. Remember, my light source is over here. This is because I put my stamp set on and it was still wet. It's forgiving. It'll let me do it. So I'm going to say, well, all right, I got a little bit of color over here. I'm going to need to make a lot of color over here, right? And this is Milan Mambo. It is not Calypso Coral. We will bring in Calypso Coral and try and blend it in. And you're thinking, well, that doesn't really look like shadow. That looks like you just colored there. And I'm going to add a little bit of gray to ground it. And then I'm going to take my blender pen and I'm going to start over here and drag it. This is because I use Milan Mambo. Milan Mambo is a really bright color. Had I done this all with Calypso, I wouldn't have this kind of brightness, but I can live with it. And I'm on watercolor paper, so I can keep playing with it. And I'm going to just let this go away as I get higher. And then this is lighter over here. Let me try one more where I haven't messed it up in the beginning. Here's my watercolor. Let's say I have my scissors. No, I think. I thought I might get away with it one more time. Nope. And honestly, this is the kind of thing you want to do. You want to just play. So you want to stamp and color a little bit, and then we're going to put Milan Mambo far away, and we're going to grab, let's do a different color. Let's do Rich Razzleberry, and we're going to make our handles. Notice this stamp set is drawn, so it's got some shading to it. Let's assume our light source is coming in this way. So my scissor blades are going to be bright. The darkest part is going to be back here. And this blade is underneath, so this is going to be even darker over here. Okay? Darker means more color. It also means, so this is going to be light up here, it's going to be darker. You gotta, and if you're not sure, take your scissors and lay them down, and then take a light and shine it on them so that you can see what it looks like. So if I shine the light source on my scissor, you can see where it's brighter up here, and it gets, clearly it's black, but it gets darker, and you can see where your shadows are. So sometimes it's really helpful if you're trying to figure out what to do. If I didn't have all these lights on in here, you could see it better. See where the shadows are falling? That's what you want to do to make it look more realistic and not make it look like a coloring book. You want to get the realism of the light, and light is probably the best thing that you can do to get your drawings to look more realistic. So I'm going to say that my light source is coming from up here, and I'm going to put some dark on this side because this is on the bottom. And I'm going to put gray. And I'm going to put some gray to cool it down. But if you do this kind of blending before, blending with your pencil before you bring in your blending pen, you only have to do that once. If you start using the blending pen, then you kind of have to wait for it to dry before you can come back. You can. See how that's much lighter up there than down here? And if you've got too much color on your blender, you can just wipe it off and then go back. Because I've got this gray here, I want my color down there, so I'm dragging the color to it. And then I'm going to come down here with a little bit of the gray and drop that in to kind of add my shading down there. If I need a little bit more, I can bring it in, but notice it doesn't color as well where it's wet. It will, but just not as well. All right, so now I do these scissors and you're thinking, oh, I love it. I love this one. I don't necessarily, but I really, really like it. Just cut it out. So I'm going to cut these out. A little bit of fussy cutting. But I do like the stamp set. I think it's great for all of our crafting friends. And even it could be, it doesn't have to be a paper crafter either. It could be someone who knits or crochets. And I don't want to cut all that away because I want that shading that I did. And then I can bring this in and I could add this on, I could add this here right on top of it if I wanted to. Even though I stamped it before, I could add this up. I can put it up just a little bit and it gives me length. I think what I'm going to do is use my mini dimensionals and add you on top of my card. So I could have done it either way, depending on how much time I had, how quickly I wanted to get this done. Did I want to spend a lot of time making this one, or was I in a really big rush and I forgot to make a card and I need to get it done before I go out the door? And again, if this is watercolor paper on watercolor paper, Dimensionals keep sticking to my fingers lately. There he is. Okay. All right. I will upload the video from tonight along with this sketch for you so that you can make some more of these. And I will see you all really soon. I'll see you on Saturday for those of you that are coming to the Day of Memory Keeping. And I will see the rest of you on email and on Facebook. All right? Everybody have a great night, and I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.